happening?
Yes.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Hello and welcome to day 2 of the hustle here. If you are brand new to our little series, we are exploring and experimenting with Google Classroom and how Google Classroom or Google Classroom workflow could work. As always, here with the intrepid Webs. Webs, what's good?
I am doing a light Magnum PI cosplay today. I have my Detroit Tigers um, frames and my Hawaiian shirt. So it's like Disney bounding, but Magnum PI style.
Well, if we're going to refer to baseball, shout out to just Jordan Walker, man. They gave you so much crap the first 2 years. I rode with you for 2 years, bro. It's great to see the major league leader in RBIs right now. Major league leader, not the National League, not the Cardinals leader, the leader in the major leagues in RBIs right now, fam.
Oh yeah, he's your team.
Absolutely, absolutely. And he was given so
Nice.
much crap the first 2 years, so much crap, and we stand vindicated. Stand vindicated. Uh, yeah. But anyway, on to the program for tonight. Yesterday we really delved into why you should not jump to Google Classroom as the default lesson planning environment for your classroom. And before we get into that, Webs, Anthropic decided to drop a nice gift for teachers. Can you kind of go into what the gift for teachers was and what kind of the ramifications for a classroom teacher would be given this gift?
Yeah, we so you can sign up for a free teacher account. You just have to like prove your identity or whatever that process is. Generally, in my experience, when you're proving you're a student or a teacher, it's like your ID badge or an email linked to your school district, which is interesting. So we were pre show chat talking about does it seem like teachers are going to want to move over to use Claude and connect like their Google instances or their Microsoft drives or whatever to Claude and use the free Claude account, or would they stick with whatever LLM is within their sort of school district selected ecosystem? Um, and I'm kind of torn. I think, and I want to caveat with I think there is a difference between whether you should versus whether you will. Because what I've seen in other industries is particularly with Microsoft, that uh, if Claude becomes an option, or if Claude is not a sanctioned option, people will go use Claude anyway, basically. So it'll be interesting to see if that's the case within education or if it kind of goes differently. Because I think the downside and why you wouldn't want to do that would be obviously like a data and privacy issue. You don't want to take student data, take it out of your school protected ecosystem, because when school districts make agreements with companies like that, it's all covered under your district license and your agreement of how they use your data. When you go off onto your own and you choose to use your own independent free account, it's not always covered by the same requirements that your state, district, all the other organizations that oversee compliance for your region agree with. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out, depending on what tools your district uses. Also, we're good on audio.
Cool, cool. Um, yeah, so that's wonderful. We're going to try to demonstrate tonight that if you're in a Google district, I would just ride with the Google ecosystem, and I definitely make this akin to the reason why I have an iPhone, an iPad, a MacBook Pro, and a iMac. There might be better products that stand alone outside of the Mac ecosystem, but together the ecosystem makes my workflow so much more equitable, efficient, and it gives me a peace of mind where, in terms of having to learn how to switch from a Sony product back to the Mac product, back to this product, but I don't have to worry about that. All my devices speak the same language. And I think that as a human, we crave that level of simplicity and that level of security in terms of if I do it on one device, I can just hand it off to the next device, hands it off to the next device. Wes is also a Mac person, so if I send her something, I am pretty secure in if I send her this thing, she's going to be able to open it. It doesn't have to just be a PDF. It could be a HEIC photograph. It could be whatever it is, right? And so to me, if you are in a district that is not Microsoft is a different beast. To me, I would not use any Microsoft products in the classroom. That's just I'm just gonna. We are not paid by Mac or by Microsoft, even though we're both Apple distinguished educators. That's just a caveat for that. But um, if I was in a Google school district and every teacher that I was going to work with was using Google, every student I was going to work with using Google, to me, you are unless you are a high level Claude user and you're using this as you are a super user, you know exactly what you're doing, how to convert things, the MCPs, the APIs, all that stuff you work with, knock yourself up. If you are a novice Claude user, use Claude for your own personal products, projects, and things like that as you're learning things, wonderful. But for your professional stuff and for security purposes, keep everything inside the Google environment. It's you just don't want to get hemmed up. You don't want to be that one person caught out there getting you wrote an IEP with Claude because it does this thing better than the other thing. And also the other like $64,000 caveat to this would be there is no MCP or API to Claude that is legit to NotebookLM. And to me, NotebookLM is the monster tool for schools. I don't care what Claude does, it doesn't do NotebookLM the way NotebookLM does that in a simplistic, all encompassing way that your kids can access and that you can build in very little time. They don't have a functionality that way.
It's interesting because like we have this problem in software development, and it's one that we quite often have to solve when, like, especially when I was in my consulting days and I was consulting with different businesses. You have to make a choice about whether you're going to do best of breed for your tools, so they don't all necessarily talk to each other, but you get the highest quality in that particular area. Whether it's identity and access management or data lake work or whatever, or you can choose to have a one-stop shop like a Microsoft Azure or AWS or Google Cloud Platform. And to your point, like the advantage to doing the one-stop shop is everything communicates. It's pretty easy to set up. It's all in one place, but it doesn't give you the advantage of some of the best in breed tools. And sometimes you do a little bit of a trade-off. Like you might use AWS for just about everything, but you outsource your identity and access management to Okta. So it's interesting that like this is a common pattern of a problem that is not only with software development but outside of it as well.
Dope, dope. And this is why we have Webbs on the show because she has this kind of insight that's far beyond. Here's a classroom situation. This is also something that if we're thinking about outside the classroom, it's still a relevant conversation. All right, we left off yesterday. We used NotebookLM. We built like a very individualized thing about dolphins. And we're going to start off with looking at Google Classroom again. And like this, just got a basic walkthrough if you're not someone who's familiar with the tool. And let's go there now. So here we have Google Classroom. This is the Google Classroom. If you were with us yesterday, we built this yesterday. And I'm going to take you to a very specific place super quickly. And that's the classwork page. And oh my goodness, there's something already there. Oh my
But
God.
yeah, because we ended yesterday with it connecting and doing a draft, right?
So it built a draft of the thing. Here's my draft, and I can go and edit the assignment. Now, that's a lot of work inside there, and there's some of that information inside here that kids are not going to need. I don't really need that at all, right? That piece of information, I could rewrite it or whatever I wanted to. All right, high concept, own it, learn it. That's not really, all those pieces of information are cool. Google Classroom submission checklist. I think that's kind of a great addition to this lesson plan. Link attachment to your initial thinking map. Your team's completed Canva infographic, a Google Vids pitch, and a private comment detailing your specific role and log. Wonderful. Now, that was all done outside of Google Classroom using Gemini. Gemini built all that based on a set of instructions from a NotebookLM. Once you connect, or once you indicate to Gemini one time that it can connect to Google Classroom, it will connect. If you have multiple classrooms, you can tell it which classroom you want it to send the draft to, etc. But the wonderful part about this is it's not going to publish anything for you or send the classwork in draft form. Now, Webbs, as a technologist and as a teacher, what is the advantage to having it not publish things on your behalf as you're sending things out to to students rather?
Well, I mean, if you decide if it's not fitting what you want, if it has more information than it needs, if it's not written in such a way that it's ready for a learner to consume, you have the opportunity to review it. Because really, when you're talking about working with large language models, LLMs, AI, chatbots, whatever you want to call them, um, they agents, we talked about agents yesterday, um, you have to audit what they put out because it can hallucinate, it can um, get things jumbled, it can just go off into left field, speaking of baseball, just go off into left field and do something completely unexpected, and you're like, no, that's not really what I wanted, especially if you're early on and working with these types of tools and you're still honing in on how to get it to do what you want it to do. There's a high likelihood that you have an idea. It kind of reminds me, what this reminds me of?
Mm.
Did you ever do that thing either with your students or as a student where you had to write the directions to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
Yes.
Okay. It 100% reminds me of that because when you first start working with agents and you give them directions, you think it's perfectly clear in your head. But then when it produces the thing, it's like, oh, yeah, I can see how you got there. I forgot to include this detail or that detail. So that's why you'd want it to draft and not just immediately publish. We would call that testing in prod. We don't want to do that. We don't want to test in production. So you want to make sure that you're kind of running it through your own quality analyst like brain, making sure that what's there, you're auditing it and it's what you want to teach. It has the information you want. And it's not putting something out there that you aren't expecting your students to actually work on.
Absolutely. And that's the other reason why I am not a one prompt user. It is not going to magically solve your problems in one prompt. And if it does, then I would question the quality. Even if, oh, this sounds like a great answer, there's a better answer out there. There's a better product if you just continue to prompt and ask questions. And I think that conversation, that discussion element with the LLMs is important. That once you start realizing you need to have a conversation, it becomes less and less magical, right? It's less than Santa Claus like, where it's just dropping presents on you. You take the presents and you roll with it. And you sent a, not to digress, but you sent a video to me about with a professor off of TikTok talking about strategies and whatnot. Can you explain a little bit about what that the professor was speaking about? And then I've got a comment and then another question for you.
Yeah. So the original poster of the video was talking about how like strategies that they use to sort of deal with students using AI. So one of the strategies that they talked about using was um, having students go out to a website, have to get information from a separate website, bring that back, combine that with other resources that are given during class time, provide their own reflections, take screenshots of them working through the website in order to submit that. Uh, so that it's a lot harder for them to pull all the pieces together, provide it to an AI agent, an LLM, and then output whatever the answer is to their assignment. And then there was a comment on that video that was talking about, oh, I just make my lectures longer and I assign them more videos so that it's harder for them to use the videos. Which I thought was interesting. I haven't seen too many conversations about changing how you teach to meet this moment.
Mm.
I have seen a lot about the frustration of kids cheating and that kind of a thing.
Well, so first of all, and we talk about Claude, Zeit. which was what was the name of the stupid? What was the name of the thing they changed it to?
Oh, didn't that become Loom?
No, it does what it is. A
No.
screen recorder. It was originally some other thing. Cloud. Uh,
Oh yes, I forget what it was called. Yeah, because that doesn't make a lot of sense to
yeah,
me. But it's like a screen
screen.
recording tool.
So first of all, what the professor said, if I really wanted to avoid what you're talking about, Zeit now has an MCP for Claude that will go and do that stuff for you. So I could screen record. I could like you're not going to you're not going to be thinking as so marginally that you're going to actually beat what people are building to allow the
Cloud app.
your cloud app. It's
It's
a,
called Cloud app.
you
Yeah.
can't keep up. All right. So how do you make something relevant to a person is the question. Not how do I know. How do you make me want to actually do the work? And there's also a point where you can't say I can't use AI. It's how are you surfacing a question, surfacing some motivation for the young person. The young person is using the tools that are at their disposal in order to give you an authentic answer to the question. Not let's pretend AI doesn't exist. Go ahead, Webs.
One of the things I really liked about what they said was I try to give students an assignment that they want to do. That was something that stuck out to me about that video, because I feel very similar. Like, make it so that there is some elements, like we are really big on the Octalysis framework by Yu Kai Cho, and the idea that there are drives, things that drive people to want to do things. You see this in video games, you see it in marketing, and the way that people, like the way that advertisements work and things like that. And that same thing can be applied to making lessons and learning appealing.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that was just, it was fascinating a lot how again in education we're pushing against the tide rather than creating systems that allow young people to first of all surface their own motivations, you know, the human in the loop. Why is this important for you? Great. Now let's take a sheet of paper and a pencil. You can take pictures of paper. She was an online teacher, if I'm not mistaken. I could still say you're going to make a thinking map on a sheet of paper. You're going to take a picture of that paper and you're going to turn that in first. Great. Now, to my knowledge, we do not have robotic arms that stick out of your computer that are AI powered that are you writing your own handwriting on thinking maps as of yet. That's probably something that is going to come probably sooner than later. However, at this particular point, if you asked me, I want you to generate from your own reflections a thinking map, a brainstorming, whatever the thing is, and that needs to be uploaded first. Great. I'm seeing where your thoughts are initially about things, questions you have. The KWL chart is a time honored structure for doing this stuff, right? Every teacher I've ever met, KWL, KWLH, KWLHQ, they're all kind of different things that are there, right? You can build those things out, have a young person figure those things out and turn those things in first. Hey, I know where you're thinking. Wonderful. All right. Let's not try to jump to the end of the situation by write a 5 paragraph or 5 page essay on George Washington. I don't care about George Washington. It has nothing to do with my life at this particular point, man. Go ahead, Webs.
I think too, it's worth reflecting on our own relationship with punishment,
Uh,
because a lot of the videos I see where teachers are talking about how they're fighting against AI and their students using AI, there is an element of gotchaness to it. There's an element of, oh, if you're going to use AI, I'm going to make you use a blue book. I'm going to make you come in and endure this really long exam as sort of punishment for thinking that you could possibly outsmart me. I don't know. But there's a little too much excitement in the punishment aspect, I feel like. Um, Instead of thinking about like how do we make this so that they actually want to engage with whatever it is.
like
Me,
the
what
Trump.
was the Me Too for?
Me too.
Yeah, there's a comment that says Me Too, but I don't know what the Me Too comment was in relation to. Oh, thank you.
Like I think of anytime I think of punishments in schools, I think the Trunch and Matilda. Like I really think she's like the epitome of this my life was traumatic, so I'm gonna make your life traumatic. Super interesting.
Viewers. The
Oh,
Me Too was for so and so is watching, and so am I. Got
indeed.
it. Thank
The
you. Thank you for watching.
Absolutely. The interesting thing about this is if you give kids the structure of, not kids, humans, the structure to say, this is personally valuable to me, I'm personally invested in it, I think all of these things solve themselves. But when you don't do that, you don't center in what is authentic to me, what questions I have, why would this even be relevant to how I live my life? If you just say, I have to teach this because it's a thing I want to teach or the standards say so or whatever, then we have this element of coercion that has to happen. And suddenly we've got, tug and for a back and forth, the tug and pull of, um, I'm in fifth grade. I don't have to do what you tell me to do in the first place. I'm going to find the easiest way to get out of this perfunctory task that I can. Which brings
The
us,
crazy thing is it's modeling a skill that most people need in the workplace when you make them think about and demonstrate and model. Consider your audience. Consider your audience when you're building whatever it is you're building. Because I really think that even in the workplace, even in corporate America, every meeting is a knowledge transfer. Every meeting is a learning opportunity, right? Your whole goal of having that meeting in the first place is to collaborate with other people, to transfer information, to extract information from other people. And you do that most effectively, putting my learning sciences hat on, you do that most effectively when you consider the motivations of your audience, the identity of your audience, the things that they care about. It makes your whole job easier when you consider who you're delivering this message to and what do they value and what is most important to them. So when you do that as a teacher, you're also modeling a skill that students will need when they go into the workforce if they want to successfully persuade people in the workplace. Um, when they if they want to successfully transfer information and gather information, to engage people, to persuade, if you are a leader that you want to have change happen across your organization. All of that starts with, do you know your audience?
but I would also push back on that. I would say, hey, teachers are megalomaniacs in lots of ways, right? They're the only people. I have, this is my classroom and this is the way we're going to do things. I don't have to converse and collaborate with you like that in that space, right? As adults walking into corporate headquarters X, one could assume that you are also respected as an adult person, right? And if someone were to yell and scream and throw a tirade at you because you didn't do the thing, you would have options to say, hey, I'm out of here, I can go elsewhere. A fifth grader does not have that opportunity. I have to show back up to this same place every. I have very little rights if we just wanted to talk about that in that particular situation. So while I 100% agree with you talking about, that's the way that I did use my, that's the way my classrooms typically functioned. I would say that unfortunately, this is the power dynamic in most classrooms do not open us up to
I'm
that.
just imagining every classroom taught by Megamind.
I mean, I, some of the classes you walk,
Anyway, let's move on to the topic at hand this evening.
absolutely. So the idea here is using the concept of agents in order to facilitate your Google Classroom experience. And this all is predicated upon, like we said yesterday, are you prepared to teach during the school year? So, do you have some kind of philosophy that's been written down? Do you have your calendar for the year, your pacing guides, all this stuff? And we've said this, I think, multiple times at this point. It is going to seem like a lot of work in the front end, but once that work is established, it is a lot easier to go navigate the rest of your school year and not have to play catch up. If you ground your LLM in knowledge that is going to be able to be changed on the fly if needs and if it needs to be, you're going to be really good. We're going to show you this right now in real time. None of this. I'm going to show you the output, but then we're going to walk you through how to do this in real time. No tricks. You're going to see everything happen. If it doesn't work, then I owe you $50. Not really, but okay. So let's check this out really quickly. And the
Only valid for use viewers who are viewing at this moment, not for replay.
so this is what we did yesterday. Great, fine, dandy. Let's prove that this is something that can be duplicated. This is me. The very first thing I'm going to do is I've got my notebooks, and you see the word notebooks in terms of being a plurality there. I'm going to go and put that Google Classroom there and seventh grade Amplify. That's what I was going to long term sub this school year, and I have a whole notebook built with that everything that needs to be in there, a pacing guide, the student schedule, all that stuff is in there. All right. So I can add multiple notebooks to the conversation to ground this. And Webbs, can you give us a definition of grounding very quickly?
Yeah, so the idea is you're adding context, right? Like it's going to draw from those data sources in order to. We talked yesterday about how LLMs and things like Gemini and Claude are basically like three autocompletes in a trench coat. So it's just trying to predict like what's the next most common thing. And if you heavily weight it in the things that you want it to kind of lean toward by adding these notebooks, it's going to more heavily weight the things that you've added to it. It's not just going to pull random stuff from the internet and homogenize around some very generic lesson plan or outcome.
So, the other thing I need to do as an instructor is I need to understand not only what tools I'm using to get to my goal, but what my goal is. And I need to be able to articulate that and understand all the different working parts of that destination. So I'm going to go back in here in Google Classroom. I'm actually going to cook that out. And I need to know the actual terms for the pieces of Google Classroom I want to engage as I'm going through this particular process. So if I decide I'm going to, create a brand new situation here, here's some vocabulary words I need to be aware of. The assignment. Is an assignment difference between is there a difference between an assignment and a quiz assignment? Yes, there is. So if I want it to be an assignment, I need to say assignment and not quiz assignment. Because if I don't specify and I want to be as specific as possible because I want this thing to do what I want it to do, not to have any questions or to place something in a place that I might not be able to find it. The word question is there, so I can build questions, material, reuse posts. I don't want to ever use a NotebookLM or Gem based off of things here. I want to build those things outside of this interface so that I have a lot more control of things there and the word topic is there. But those are the pieces that are generally going to be built. If I go to assignment, I have some options underneath here. I can put things from my Google Drive, YouTube. I can create a document. Practice sets can be built based on this information. I can upload things or links. I can record things. There's a NotebookLM I can add, and there are gems I can add as well. Also, rubrics can be attached to these things. I can set a grading period if I needed to. All right, wonderful. Great. So let's go back to our Gemini. And now let's go with that knowledge in our head. Let's start not with let's go to a single prompt solution for a problem. Let's approach this as a conversation where I want to build an assignment that is going to end up in Google Classroom. So the very first thing I'm going to start off with Webb's logically, or in my mind logically, is I'm a seventh grade science teacher. I want to make sure that it is going to read this information for me. So generally, even when my personal stuff with Claude and stuff like this, I do a test prompt to make sure that all the neurons are firing on the other side. How many total school days of instruction will I have with students? Use the CCSD 2026 2027 student calendar. Now, inside of the notebook that has my grade 7 Amplify, there is a copy of the CCSD student calendar in there. I just want to make sure every time I'm having a conversation with Gemini, Claude, whatever, that it's pulling off the dates. Do I have school on this day? Is there a holiday? Is there an in-service day? Anything like that? So as I'm planning, it is very aware of cross-referencing. Yo, you don't have school that day, Mike. You said this is a 5-day week. It's actually a 4-day week or a 3-day week or spring break is coming. This is always a good sign because it's going through each of those notebooks looking for the answer rather than Santa Clausing it and saying, hey, yeah, it's 112 days. Well, first of all, I know that's wrong, but uh, if I this is my first year teaching, I might not know how many days of instruction there is in the typical school year. I may think there's 160 school days when there's should be 180. I think it's 100 yeah 180 straight up. Great.
Do you ever run into issues where you're telling it like I'm teaching seventh grade, but if your classroom OS says you teach third grade, it has conflict or hallucinates?
It will it will either hallucinate or bring that conflict up to bear. Hey, it says you're teaching third grade or whatever, which is the reason why I changed my OS to seventh grade a couple of days ago because I knew we were going to have this example. So, um, this might make you nervous that it's thinking this long, but this is actually a good thing. Bada bing. What did it do? I didn't ask it to break it down into the 2 semesters, which is awesome. So I got 87 instructional days. It says class begins on August the 10th in 2026. First grading period is 44 days, 43 days, 44 plus 43 is 87. Would that be correct math? That's correct math, at least going by what it has here. Class resume on the 4th. I go 48 days and 45. 48 plus 45 is 93. Last day of school is May 20th, 2027. It maps out those holidays for me as well. I don't have school on Labor Day. There's a couple staff development days, et cetera, et cetera. So that's gonna, hopefully ground it in. The system is working at least reliably in this particular point. Great. Let's create a unit lesson plan based on. Actually, let's do a different question next. Using the pacing guide for Site 7. Will I be able to complete the entire curriculum by 5:20? The pacing guide, if you're in a large school district like the one that we happen to live in, there are pacing guides for all of your courses. This is a boon for you as a teacher because it gives it even greater context. We have the calendar, we have the pacing guide. That is going to very much keep you up to date. What I will say, and to go back to our Claude conversation, Webs, Claude's connection to Google Calendar is far better than Google Gemini's connection to Google Calendar, which that would be the only thing that I would say absolutely positively connect your Claude to your Google Calendar for your school district so you can go and seed your entire calendar with all the lessons that you're going to deal with. And as the calendar queen, I'm assuming that you agree with that.
Yeah, for sure.
So again, it's analyzing the situation. You're going to see some real magic happen in just a minute. So I've got the calendar situation. Our pacing guide is going to pop up here and it's going to confirm or deny, hey, these are the number of days I have according to Clark County. This is the number of days of the pacing guide, or the pacing guide says we can do. Do those things actually, are they congruent, or is there some kind of conflict? Oh, cool. Now this is the other issue that you're going to have with LLMs doesn't matter what LLM you're dealing with. I do most of my work at midnight, 1, 2 a.m., where not a lot of people are working on utilizing the tools. But if I decide to do work now, oftentimes there is so much traffic on whatever LLM it is. I've had Claude quit like, hey, it's too many people like trying to do the thing that you're doing, cool. And I'll wait until midnight to do it. Webs, is there any like technical reason why that happens?
I don't know if it's traffic related. I think sometimes what I've encountered, I haven't worked with Gemini as much. So what I've encountered with Claude is that sometimes they just kind of crap out for whatever reason. They don't really explain why, and it'll just stop responding. There could be myriad reasons for it. Sometimes maybe what's being asked is too complex a question. It gets stuck spinning on whatever it is, and so eventually it stops itself because it's like, I can't figure this out, it's too complicated. um Sometimes something breaks on the other side and you just have to ride it out. Most of the time, so this is something that I think probably most teachers don't know. Most uh, web-based tools have a status page. Usually it's like, it'd be like status.gemini.com or status.google.com or status.claude.com. And you can go there to find out if something is wrong. I'm sure a lot of people also use down detector. You just search for, is Gemini down, is Claude down, whatever. And also when there is an incident and something is happening, it will give you it'll give you an update anywhere from every like few minutes to every hour, depending on how big the outage is or how big the issue is and how big the company is. So you can usually go to it, or you can search for like Google status page and you'll be able to find it, and it'll tell you like if things are up or not.
Right.
So that'd be another place to go. I think in the case of LLMs, you might also want to simplify your request. Um,
I may be. It may.
that can also be it.
Let's do this. So when this pops off, this is another way to deal with it.
Yes, that's a great question too. So there can be the question in the chat was, is there a team monitoring that functionality, kind of like what I used to do? So I
Mm.
used to be a site reliability engineer, and yes, that was my whole job, was making sure the site was reliable. Um, there are usually automated tools that will let the site reliability team know if something is wrong. There are alarms that go off, and you'll get a phone call on your cell phone saying something's down. But yes, there are teams that handle those issues. So sometimes it can be that. Sometimes it could be. This is also a great strategy. Is like, maybe it's having trouble getting through all of the files that are there. So if you give it the specific file you're asking for, or you want it to use for context, that may be helpful. And continuing to simplify your question too, what is helpful.
And so if you don't, I still believe in hard drives. So I have like 3 hard drives on my desk right now. So I download the PDFs and make sure those things are, and then I duplicate them in the cloud if necessary. But exactly, I'm not the one thing that I'm not a technologist in the way that Webs is. I just kind of like, hey, how could I simplify and finish? How could I fix this problem, not knowing how to fix the problem? And so, keeping those things handy, making sure that you have multiple copies of things, simplifying the question. I didn't know that was a strategy. It's something I always, oh, cool. If this is too complex, but also this demonstrates this is not a super tool. This is not a tool that just solves all your problems. This is the reason why we wanted to do this live. Oh, if I just showed you the finished product, oh my goodness, it didn't take them time. I hate Instagram videos and TikTok videos where they're doing a tutorial. It's do, and you're like, that's not that easy, fam. Because if it's that easy, everyone could do that, and I wouldn't be following you. It would just be like this magic thing that happens, right? Um, so obviously we're having a problem with Gemini, which is something else that's there. And again, this, instead of like, oh my goodness, it doesn't work, this is demonstrating the fact that you should not be totally reliant on all the tools that are here. Let's do this. Let's start a new chat. Maybe it's the 2 notebooks. I'm gonna go create 7.
Actually, that's a thing that can happen. So I will say a couple things. One, I don't like it when products do this, when all they say is go ahead and try again, because that doesn't give me the information as a user to say, here's what you need to change. A common thing that can happen with LLMs is if you give them too much information, it will basically like choke on the amount of information you've given it. So that is also a good strategy, is dial back the amount of information. And another place that this will happen is sometimes essentially the conversation gets corrupted. And so if you start a fresh conversation, it can uh, kind of fix that problem. What model are you using?
That's the thinking models. This should be 3.5. Yeah, 3.5.
Okay.
All right, so this is just the notebook.
Oh,
Yes.
one other thing. If you're giving it PDFs, PDFs eat a lot of tokens. Any time that you can make it into a text file is far superior. Um, because PDFs, it will take a PDF, render it as an image, then do optical character recognition on that image, and that eats a lot of tokens. So ideally, you want to try to give it markdown files or text files rather than PDFs.
Interesting. I think, hmm, it might be user error here. Let's ask some basic questions. Can you access the pacing guide? Hmm.
And it looks like for Google, aistudio.google.com is the status page for Gemini, Nano Banana. The other thing that I find really interesting is so typically, in speaking from being a site reliability engineer, most companies target uh, three nines or four nines. So their uptime should be 99.9% or 99.99%. Like it should be up pretty much always. And what I've noticed about the LLMs in particular is they have way more downtime than most typical applications do. I assume because it's a new technology and they're still trying to like work things out. Um, but yeah, the downtime for the LLMs is much greater than most typical established applications would be. Because like
Interesting.
I can see for Gemini's API in the last, my guess is 90 days, there have been one, two, yeah, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So a third of those days, that's like, instead of having 99% uptime, that's like 67% uptime. That's crazy.
This is mad interesting. This is but because of time's sake. I'm going to record me doing this offline and record it as well. That's super interesting to me. Go to my search chest really quickly. Yeah, this is the thing I want to deal with. We're going to go and get rid of this just to show you that there is something that does work. We're going to cut out the notebook LM because it's already built on this. The thing that we want to, or the thing that's interesting with this particular process is I've got this thing that's here. What I want to also build, what we're going to do with the notebook LM is make things a lot more complicated and pretty and whatnot. We'll skip that particular part. With any time, if I'm a teacher going forward, anytime I create a task for young people, I also want to create a gem that will help them through that task. And can you explain what a gem is for us, Webbs?
I can. Think of it like a custom version of Gemini, like a version of Gemini that you've built specifically for one task. Like you just want it to focus on doing this one thing. Maybe it takes on specific persona. Maybe it's like your planning guide, or maybe it is your uh, learner tutor or something like that. That's your math tutor that's very specifically trained on your math content and has instructions on how to be a math tutor.
All right. So the gem, if I build everything in the Gemini conversation, it's going to have the context of the notebook LM, have the context of the actual thing that it built. We'll also have the context of whatever individualized things happen in your classroom. All right, great. This is a blueprint for the custom gem in Google Workplace. Wonderful. This is going to be based on this little this dolphin thing. Here's the description: an interactive workplace coach designed to guide teams of four through the dolphin population stress test. Select your role to get targeted toolkits, feedback, and strategies. Wonderful. So it knows again. I reminded it there are four roles in each of the groups. It knows what those roles are. Here are the things that it's going to give me. Always ask the user, never write, push students toward empirical verified data. Wonderful. Those are things that I really want my students to be able to do. Role specific. So the cartographer is a role I have, the curator, the quality analyst, and the web designer. All right, cool. I could read through all those things. If a student asks a vague question, give the starter strategy. Okay, cool. There's some things that are missing there. This should.
Why would I want to build one of these in the first place? Like why would I want to build a gem for this one specific task? Isn't that kind of overkill?
Ah, how many teachers are in the classroom? How many adults? And what is the biggest stressor? I think. What was the biggest stressor for you in the classroom?
I'm trying to do small group and I get Miss Weber, Miss Weber, Miss Weber. How do I do blah 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 blah? Or Miss Weber, Miss Weber, Miss Weber. What was I supposed to do after I do XYZ step? Miss Weber, Miss Weber. Do I have to do X or do I have to do Y? Do I have to do both of them?
Suddenly we can go and preempt that particular step by saying there is a, even if you're not having the kids do the work digitally, having them have their Chromebook available to them. So I'm doing my, God forbid, worksheet, or I'm doing flashcards or whatever, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do next or how I'm supposed to do it or the instructions. If you just build the gym that will answer the kids' question, oh, okay, cool. You know, I know what I need to do next. And here's the example. Here's my schedule for the activity. My biggest pet peeve was having my name yelled when I was just trying to drink my coffee. Like, fam, look, it's on the board. Now it's just, did you check your gym? No. Like Mr. Lang's lips are sealed. Go and actually do the protocol that we want you to have done. So,
And even for younger learners, if you use the most devices now have like a text to speech functionality. You can have them text to speech and it'll print out their words. They just have to practice that speaking, which is one of the like second grade standards is practicing that speech. So it is also a really good skill builder to have them um, do a text to speech. I would highly recommend, by the way, text to speech and not audio input because then they're giving their voiceover and it's being recorded somewhere. Like, let's not do that. Instead, just use the text to speech functionality so that as they're speaking, it's printing out their words to then be able to push into the gem.
so I want to keep. We have lots of EL learners inside of the Clark County School District or whatever. You probably have EL learners no matter where you are. Spanish may be the dominant language. It may not. You might have kids who speak Swahili or Korean or whatever. You want to have a situation in which, yeah, thank you. Bada bing. So we're gonna go ahead and add those things. We need to build in trans languaging support as prior towards the Nevada ELA instructional framework, integrate sentence frames, and please read aloud. Wonderful. Let's add all that stuff in there. Great. All right, cool. Read aloud a reminder. The anything inside of the gym can be read to the student. They just need to know where it is. All right. So anything that if you have kids who are hard, who have difficulty, first of all, I just like things being read to me off rip. All right, and I'm generally able to hear things pretty decently. Um, so that's the thing in terms of just accommodations and accessibility, being able to have things read to students who are individuals who might be pre-readers, they might be new to reading in English. Those kind of things are important. Um, Writing in native languages, so you can write in the native language inside the gym. It's going to help. It will go and converse back and forth in that native language. And simplified layouts are there as well. This is all instructions that we're going to give the gym. These are the pieces of information we want to have them deal with. And here's the stuff that we lowered the reading barrier to make it easy for ELL students. Great, wonderful, wonderful. Gives a simple 3-point checklist. Great. Webs, in terms of accessibility, is there anything else we need to make sure this gym is aware of as we're interacting with the students that have to do this particular task?
Mm, I think it hits the big things. And I think I feel like this is a piece that's missing from the whole, oh, take phones out of classrooms. You're not allowed to bring your laptop to the classroom anymore if you're a college student because you might be using AI. I understand the urge to retreat back to things on paper. And also, we have to acknowledge all of the learners being left out of the conversation when we choose to completely abandon the technology. Because a piece of paper cannot translate into every language, right? Like those learners are being left out of the conversation when we say that I'm not going to have any technology in my classroom. I'm only going to go back to pencil paper, they are being left out. Learners that require supports for accessibility reasons, whether that's not just translation, but also being able to read things aloud, being able to increase the size of a font. Those are all tools that technology offers that open worlds to learners that are otherwise locked out when you decide to ban technology from your classroom entirely.
All right. So the other thing that the gym kind of situation is cool with is changing the tone, right? So great. I want the kids to anime is big
I
in this.
did think of a thing.
Go ahead.
You could straight up just say, follow the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, WCAG, and COGA, which is cognitive. I can't remember that. I don't know COGA as well. COGA, because the COGA guidelines are for learning disabilities. So if you're following both those sets of guidelines, they should make any adjustments needed to make content more accessible.
All right. So we're gonna make this. This is again while having someone who is aware of things that you are not aware of is important. So still that human element is important. But it also like thinking about the gym can give you the opportunity to reinforce different skills. So I'm going to have it respond to kids in couplets because we're studying poetry at the same time. So we're going to be looking at science, we're reinforcing the situation. All right, cool. Analyzing the pod hero. Let's see what it is. What we did right: multimodal alternatives, clear and simple language, structured input, areas to refine, sensory or tone overload, showing anime characters often speak with extreme chaotic energy to meet COGA guidelines. All right, cool. Great. Interesting. Let's see what this looks like for right now. If I click gems and I create a new gem, I'm going to place that inside there. The dolphin explorer.
So it printed out the instructions based on your conversation, and you just take the instructions that it prints out and put those into a brand new gem.
All right, great, cool. All I did was paste inside there. That's the gem logo there. Cool, great, fine, dandy. I could
Can you
change.
explain the two different sides you're looking at?
What do you mean? Oh,
So you have on the left name, description, instructions, default tool, knowledge, and then on the left hand side it says Shonen Dolphin.
so I call it Shonen Dolphin. You can call it whatever you want to call it. All right. Dolphin description. I just called it. You could go deep into the description. That's what's going to show underneath here. So if you want to go in, this is going to help you with your assignment or whatever it is. Throw that in there. The thing that
What
the
is Shonen?
Shonen is a manga slash anime concept. The Shonen Jump. If you've read those manga, super cool.
Not a manga person.
All right. So my brother was big into anime and manga, got rest his soul, and so he would tell me all these things that are popping off, and I'm like, okay, whatever, fam. And like now, since he has passed, I've like become a lot more that and being around young people, and that doesn't matter if they're high school kids, they're whatever. The kids are reading it, they're watching it. It's cool to be able to converse with them about it. All right, so whatever. I copied and pasted this directly from Gemini. You've got a rewrite instructions unless you are just like totally not confident in what you wrote. I generally don't fool with that. If you need references, I'm gonna throw a notebook LM in there and put the amplify stuff in there just to have it, because that's where the information is. Get rid of that. And this is new. I would not disable the knowledge citations. I always want receipts with the answers. So as the kids are answering, hey, this is where this information came from, unless you just don't want them to see your lesson plans or whatever you attach to it. We can now try this here. I can still add information to it if I want, but I'm a cartographer. What do I do? The other thing that's really cool about this is you could build an entire intro. Hey, welcome. This is Mr. Lang's classroom, whatever. Ahoy, brave navigators. Welcome to our eco squad. We will protect our ocean and save the dolphin pod. Your role is so important. You map the sea and land to guide our dolphin allies with a steady helping hand. Now, did the rhyme thing? It actually did the rhyme thing. Since we're studying poetry, the kids are going to see, oh, it's rhyming in couplets. Oh, yeah, cool. So as it's giving the answers, we're going to have that reinforcement of that particular concept. This is a great way to start with that playing with your food in units. Hey, I want to make sure that it's going and it's making sure that kids are getting even passively some instruction and some reinforcement in other areas that I might not be actually assessing at this particular time. That's one of the biggest things, the biggest strengths of the gems, in my opinion, is having the gem converse with them. And essentially it is assessing their knowledge of a previous standard that you may not have time to go and assess in a standard formal way. Informally, you can kind of sneak that stuff back in there. So, and then again, it kind of just does, it explains actually what they're supposed to do. Great. How do I get this to the people? I'm at the save button. It's been created. Now, I'm going to go back here, get rid of that thing. If I go to my classwork, here's my draft, edit assignment. You'll notice at the bottom here, gem is one of the options. I can click gem now. Nope. I don't want you to think for me, because I have no idea what the actual grounding of those things are at all. I want to click the select existing. My gems shown in dolphin is there. Attach the gem. And now, because I grounded all my work first, I've got a gem that was easy to build. I've got this lesson plan that was there. And now a kid can go through, yeah, okay, whatever, dude. It's just being an absolute pill today, buddy.
It really is.
Being a pill. Let's go ahead. It's embarrassing me in front of people, dude. That's not cool, man. Not cool.
It's not we always say it's not a real demo until it fails.
Absolutely. All right, cool. Let's go.
I think another good strategy to take away from this is you use Gemini to help you build the gem. If
Yeah.
you think about, if you take the directions that it gives you and test them out, see if they actually work, etc., then you can have the agent help you solve whatever problem you're trying to do, or help you build the thing you're trying to build. In this case, you said, help me build a gem. So it went through and developed the instructions that you needed. And then you could just copy and paste them in and then use it. So I think that strategy is one that can be used. You always want to make sure you're in a situation where you can test out the directions that it's giving you safely. Like, if you're doing some home construction thing, maybe don't just like run to Chat GPT to get it sorted. But if you're doing something like this, where all you're really risking is, hey, I just need to copy some instructions and see if it works the way I expect it to work. Always test it before you give it to students, but it can help you build out the thing you're trying to build. And I see you got it working.
So one of the funky things with gems is, first of all, permissions. All right. So if you don't have permissions in the notebook to share, that will shut, and that's attached to a gem, will shut down the process. Then one of the other weird things is sometimes you add too many documents, even if they're shareable, and it decides it doesn't want to share. So go back, delete all the documents, and add them back one by one, and then share. And generally it works that particular way. Just a quirky, weird thing that happens. it kind of is a pain in the neck. But if you try, it's another reason why if you try to do this 5 minutes before kids show up, it's not going to be successful all the time. The
And
last thing,
also why following us is helpful because we've gone through all the pain of figuring out those weird little quirks and we can share them with you.
this is also true. The last couple seconds here thing. What I don't want to do, I'm going to move you a bit. If I click that rubric deal there, it says from I have got a belt. Great, I'm going to do that in the existing thing because I have what I can do. I can go back to my deal. Oops. You still with us, Webbs?
I don't know. You're getting choppy on my internet.
It may be too much funness happening, but that's what I want. Yes. You have equals pops up with I'm dead this thing. Am I coming through Webbs? Still choppy. It looks like I'm still choppy. Still there. Still. I'm gonna finish this off very, very quick. Finish this off. You can build the rubric inside of this page and just copy. That's what we got for tonight. We will see you tomorrow night on Wednesday.